With the general election less than a month away, the 19th District congressional race here in New York is the most expensive congressional race in the country, with more than $35 million invested in TV and digital ads. That's according to Politico. But who is paying for these advertisements, and what makes a race in upstate New York one of the most important in the country? 12 News' Kevin Quinn has the details.
I'm Mark Molinaro, and I approve this message.
I'm Josh Riley, and I approve this message.
In the 19th Congressional District, TV and digital ads from both parties are everywhere, but they aren't all directly coming from the campaigns of incumbent Republican Congressman Mark Molinaro and his opponent, Democrat Josh Riley.
Congressional Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The Congressional Leadership Fund tells 12 News that they've reserved nearly $35 million to spend throughout New York State this election cycle, including a heavy investment in NY19. According to Open Secrets, a nonpartisan organization that tracks money in politics, the spending in NY19 by the Congressional Leadership Fund is around $2.8 million this cycle. Their advertisements include taglines such as Elite D.C. lawyer Josh Riley, the worst of Washington. Congressional Leadership Fund President Dan Constant tells 12 News, quote, while Josh Riley pushed far-left policies and cozied up to Democrat activists, Congressman Mark Molinaro fought to improve life for New Yorkers. We're proud to support Mark again, and we'll do what it takes to help him send D.C. lawyer Josh Riley packing a second time. On the other side of the aisle is another super PAC. According to Open Secrets, the House Majority PAC has spent around $975,000 on the NY19 race this cycle. House Majority PAC tells 12 News their spending reservations in New York total over $45 million. The organization's National Press Secretary, Dora Pekic, says, quote, with less than 4 weeks until Election Day, HMP looks forward to NY19 voters rejecting Mark Molinaro's extreme anti-abortion MAGA agenda and electing working families champion Josh Riley to the House. 12 News spoke with both candidates to get their thoughts on the level of spending in the 19th Congressional District.
It is too expensive, and the amount of money being spent is obscene.
No amount of money that my opponent and his dark money allies can spend that will erase his voting record.
Both candidates add the content of advertising against them does not reflect their views on key issues.
They're lying. They're lying about me, my record. They're lying about my background. And they're lying because they're afraid to be honest with you.
Everybody knows I'm from Bertzel Street. I grew up in a IBM and family. We grew up in an EJ house. And my roots here have guided all of the work I've done in my career.
We are now just 22 days from the 2024 general election. Make sure to stay with 12 News for more coverage on the 19th Congressional District race. Kevin Quinn, 12 News, Broome County.